When it comes to hiring and recruitment, everything is subjective. My name's Joel Algi, and I've been in the recruitment space for coming up to a decade. And I want to give you an example of what I mean by everything is subjective when it comes to hiring and recruitment. It's our old friend, job hopping. Everybody seems to have a different idea of what job hopping actually means. I've literally spoken to some really old school hiring managers that say if you've had 3 jobs in 10 years with 3 different companies, you're a job hopper. That would mean you've had a job approximately every 3 years. Other hiring managers have said as long as each tenure is 18 months, then it's not job hopping. My personal opinion is if you've had a new company on your resume every 2 to 3 years, you should be fine in most circumstances. We've obviously had a lot of layoffs. We had the pandemic where there was a lot of furloughs and layoffs as well. So I think people are used to shorter tenures. Now, there's different types of job hopping. There's a job hopping where you move from one company to another doing the same role. That to me isn't a really strategic way to do it. What you want to do is you want to try and work at a company for 2 to 3 years, get a promotion, have that promotion for a couple months, and then maximize by then making a strategic job hop. Because you usually get a slight raise when you get a promotion, but the company isn't going to give you the raise that you would get once you start looking at similar roles in the market. So for example, you go from a SDR to an AE, so like a sales development rep to an account executive. Maybe with the same company, you get a 10K raise, but then you start interviewing at other companies and you realize that those AEs that have the same experience than you are making 20,000 more. So you start interviewing with different companies, you're then able to get that $20,000 raise instead of that $10,000 raise. So that's how you strategically job hop. But again, even with all this being said, it really only comes down to one thing, and that's what does the individual hiring manager think? Because if the individual hiring manager thinks that 3 to 4 years at each job would still count you as a job hopper, then that's what they think. It's hard to change that mindset. And again, if they think that a year doesn't make you a job hopper, so if you're just switching companies every year, maybe they don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if that's how they think, that's how they think. As you can see, the problem is there's just no one answer for what is job hopping. And that is the same for probably 90% of the issues in recruitment and hiring, which is why you hear so many mixed messages like, should you follow up with the hiring manager? Should you follow up with the recruiter? Should you send a thank you note? Should you have a cover letter? Should you have a professional summary on your resume? Should you have a resume that's 1 page, 2 pages, or 3 pages? There's literally a million topics and a million people have different opinions. But here's the one thing that matters the most. All it really comes down to is what does the hiring manager value? And that you can't predict, which is why I say you got to test a bunch of different stuff. And you just have to realize that everybody has a different preference. If you run into that hiring manager that really loves cover letters, which there's probably not that many, then they're going to want a cover letter, and there's nothing you can do to change that. So in that circumstance, a cover letter would win. What I tend to look at is what's going to work most of the time, and obviously you can't get it right every single time. So if you're going to waste time writing a cover letter for that one hiring manager out of 100, you might win that 1% of the time, but is that a valuable use of your time? So my advice is to make the best judgments, double down on things that work, and if something isn't working for you, walk away and stop wasting time on it. My last piece of advice, always just check the background of the person that's giving advice. If they've never been in recruitment, they've never been in HR, they've never been a hiring manager, they've never really done anything in their career, those people have the least amount of credibility. So just go to LinkedIn and check it out yourself.